Fireball Friday, and every fortnight we are lucky enough to be joined by the Hawthorn coach. His name is Sam Mitchell. Mitch, it's a good time to get you. Good morning.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I've been on after a few bad ones, so
Yeah.
really deserves a bit of luck.
What's pleased you the most?
Probably the nature of the two wins, the different nature of them. One was pretty and, a lot of people probably watched the replay, and one was a bit messy and toughness and had to fight it out. So I think the difference, being able to win in two different ways, 2 weeks in a row against two good sides, and it doesn't get much easier when you play Melbourne again this week.
Mitch, you said to us at the start of the year you think you've got the bones of the premiership team on your list, maybe not running around week to week, but they're there. We're just now starting to see what Will Day and John Newcombe and these youngsters are becoming. You've been well aware of what's at your disposal. How many of these guys have you got tucked away that we haven't quite seen the best of yet, given these guys are now taking the AFL by storm?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got those sort of 4 mids that have played the majority of the year, and I think Nashi's missed 1 game. Will Day was suspended for 2. Warps and Jai played every game. So those 4 guys getting that continuity and playing, I think it's unlikely you have 4 players playing every game for the season like that every year. So that's the next step for us, is to just build a bit more depth and make sure that when the next rung of guys get their chances, that they get a bit, get closer to the level of that group. But I think being able to build from the middle out has been part of our drafting strategy. Brought in Ward and McKenzie the last couple of years, and that's been important to get a bit more supply through the middle of the ground.
One of the strategies must be, you got to get these players in, and when you get them in, you can't lose them. You'd be nervous about Tyler Brockman. Mitch, 20-year-old, has got everything that you need in that front half, but appears as though he's going to be lured back home. Is that your gut feel?
I've been chatting fairly regularly with Brocky. I mean, he's so different to the rest of our players. He's the only player on our list with children. He's got beautiful little twins, and he lives just around the corner from the club and spends plenty of time here and making sure that they're happy in their world. And decisions around that will come, in a couple of weeks' time. He's been managing some sort of groin pain for a few weeks now, so trying to get on top of that, as well as some sleepless nights. He's actually managed it amazingly well for a 20-year-old. And having been in that situation myself as a 26 or 27-year-old, I'm amazed at how well him and Tyra have done it, at being able to just do everything so smoothly while managing little twins. But he's had a fantastic season for us, and we'll be doing everything we can to make sure we can hang on to him.
So it's just a homesickness thing, really, and being supported back home more so than anything that he's unhappy with at the moment as to why he hasn't re-signed.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a list management thing. I know that there's the lure of home. Both of those guys have big families, and we've seen plenty of those guys come over and visit them this year, and they've had plenty of support from their own families. But it's they're a long way from home, so that's something we'll work through later in the year.
What's it like having Finn McGuinness just been able to just set the opposition best in the crosshairs for Finn week to week? And last week you had a little luxury. I think when Libba went down, you had the ability to use him elsewhere. I'm fascinated by that, Mitch. You didn't just send him straight to Bontempelli. You went to, I think, Bailey Dale first. He ended up playing a whole host of players.
Dale, and then Ed Richards as well, who was having a really good game. So I think the thing with Finn is he can play multiple roles. So when you come up against a team like Melbourne, you're saying, okay, do we play him as a back on a Neil Bullen or Petrarca when he's there, or does he play on a mid on Viney, Oliver, Brayshaw, Petrarca, Langdon? Could go to any of those. And then he's played a negating forward role as well. So Rivers and Salem and Lever, they're all sort of options, and it's unfortunate when you play Melbourne that there's probably 10 Finn McGuinnesses to shut down some of their prime movers. So, we have to try to get the balance of the rest of the team right. There's no good him doing his job, but it stops us being able to move the ball or retain the ball in the front half.
What's the pecking order this week, Mitch?
Well, I know I gave up a little bit before the Collingwood game, but you won't get it this weekend. Sorry about that.
What was that? What? It worked.
No, I think that one, we'll just bring that one out sparingly, but I think we actually haven't decided yet. We still have training today.
Are you nervous? Yeah, don't lie to us, Mitch. That doesn't wash with us anymore. We've heard you say that too often. Are you nervous about losing about losing Chris Newman?
A little bit, actually. My media boss, Matt Dixon, he sends me articles that he thinks that I should read before I come onto a show like this. And I just told Newey yesterday, I said, if I have to read one more article about you and Richmond, mate, I already know that you're barrack for Richmond. He still calls all the boys by their nicknames and all those things. So he gets plenty of ribbing from our coaches in here. But I mean, he's a fantastic coach, and I'll do whatever. He's a really good friend of mine. So I've spoken to him about it, and it's friend first, and coach second. So if I can help him in his endeavours to get a senior coach's job, then my friendship with him will override the loyalty for him to do his job for me, of course.
Do you think you'll lose him?
No, I actually have no idea. I'd have less idea than you guys in there about what process they are up to and what they're looking for.
I'm not sure how you manage Chad Wingard now, Mitch, because he started to really turn it around and became a very important player for you once again in the last, I'm going to say, 5 or so weeks. You'd have a better indication than I on that. But out of contract, he's now ruptured his Achilles, so it's a good 12-month injury or at least 9 months. What will the discussions be about his future?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. He's a really valued part of what we're doing here, and he's been really important for us. Even when he wasn't playing, he's been really important for us, and just from a leadership perspective, and how he has helped. He helps me with my coaching and the players with how we want the game to be played. So his footy IQ is so high that we love having him around. Obviously, he's not going to play footy for a while now, and the first thing we want to do is let him have his surgery, because he's got a couple of big cuts. He's been trod on a couple of weeks in a row, so he's got a couple of big cuts around the site that they need to do it. So he actually can't have the surgery for another few days. So once the surgery is done and we see how that goes, it's not an easy one. It's quite complicated. So once we see how that goes, we'll get into those conversations. But he's a really valued part of the Hawthorn family still.
So the perception that he doesn't, so when he sort of was a youngster, didn't watch a lot of footy, he loved his basketball and that type of thing. Is he someone that wasn't playing for 12 months that you think you could still have engaged in the group and give him a role to keep him involved, or is there the risk that he could completely switch off?
No, I mean, I haven't spoken to him about that at this point, but I don't think there's any risk that he would completely switch off. I mentioned sometimes as a coach, when you're talking to the players, you need the guys that nod their head when they really think you're onto something, and he's always one that I can look to. And if he's not sure, then I haven't explained it well enough. And when he's head nodding, I'm like, okay, I'm engaged with this and know what it's. And he's as competitive as they come, and he really wants team success as the thing that he hasn't done in his career. So I think what he brings to the group is really important. And if he's not playing, obviously that's going to significantly hurt us. But and we'll see that as early as this week. But I think he's still got plenty to add.
Mitch, I hope we're talking to you again in a couple of weeks when your season's over and we're ramping up into the finals and get your view on the finals upcoming. But if that isn't the case, can I just get your thoughts on, you've had a 7-win season to this point with a couple of opportunities to come. Is that where you thought you'd be?
I'll be really honest. I thought very little about the total win-loss. When I was planning for this season, I had no idea, and I think everyone, I was much more confident than perhaps most people about what we had internally. And I know the narrative early in the season was that we'd cut the list too deep and all those things, and there was some fear that might be true. But I knew that the talent we had would come good. And I didn't know how quickly that would be. I mean, early in the year, we probably didn't quite have the mix right. The first couple of games, we had 9 players with less than 20 games, and that was just too much. Now we're 4 or 5 players with less than 20 games, and that seems to be a bit better mix to be competitive. And I'm still not sure how quickly we can go where we want to go, but I sort of said to the players fairly regularly that there's no speed limit, so we go as fast as we can to get to the level that we want to get to. And I think at this point, it'd be great to win another 1 or 2 games so we could, equal or better last year with a lot less experience. But, I think we'll probably take where we're up to at this point. And we've had a couple of good wins, which we've needed the last 2 weeks, to be honest.
Do you suspect that Brodie Grundy will play? Are you planning for Gordon Grundy?
Yeah, I mean, we plan for it at the moment. Obviously, it's only a squad, so we have to plan as if they're going to play. But not sure. You know, you get selection later today, and he's a good player, and I know they maybe haven't worked out the best way to have him in, but there's a part of me that always would hope that he's not playing because he's just a big threat wherever he plays.
Just always learning when you watch the game of footy and watching your game late last weekend. I just wonder whether you've had Ned Reeves take any kickouts at training this week, Mitch.
No, but we have actually had him practicing manning the mark on a kick in just in case. So, yeah, it was an interesting moment. But I think at that point you got 30 seconds to kick a goal. Basically my instruction to players is anything goes. Any rule that we've ever had, that goes out the window, and just do anything outrageous that will try to create a goal in the game. Now the goal can go to us or it can go to them, but it's worth another score. So something like that is not outside the realm of what's possible.
The fact that Reevesy couldn't make ground on him, I think, helped you in the end because Tim kept running.
Yeah, the couple of bounces probably did help us in the end.
Hey, just before we let you go, you had the dads down at training this week, I believe. How'd that go?
The players get a bit over the top. I think some of them have got, they've got a long memory and they're a bit more physically able than their dads now. So they get a bit too physical. I do worry about some of the old timers, but it made me really appreciate that some of our players have come from a long way back from an athletic profile point of view, and they've done a great job in one generation. And then I look at, Finn McGuinness, and I think, well, so you should be good because your dad's still a smooth mover and is doing everything right. So we come from a lot of different backgrounds, and it's great to be able to appreciate the dads.
Absolutely. Love that. Good luck on Sunday.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, guys.
On you, Mitch.